Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Samuel, founder of a revolutionary medical sales training and mentorship program called the Medical Sales Career Builder, and I'm also host of the Medical Sales Podcast. In this podcast, I interview top medical sales reps and leading medical sales executives across the entire world. It doesn't matter what medical sales industry, from medical device to pharmaceutical to genetic testing and diagnostic lab, you name it, you will learn how to either break into the industry, be a top 10% performer within your role, or climb the corporate ladder. Welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. And remember, I am a medical sales expert sharing my own opinion about this amazing industry and how it can change your life. Hello and welcome to the Medical Sales Podcast. I am your host, Samuel. And today we have another special guest, and he goes by the name of Dr. Vishal Rekhala. He is an interventional pain management specialist. We've had him on the show before where he talked about pain management, the space, and the reps within it. But this episode, we get into his business with IPP, where he helps physicians that are just starting out in private practice grow to become big entities that can hire more and live the lives and create the lives they really, really want. And how medtech reps filter into this process, can be a part of it, and really help these physicians get to where they want to be and develop amazing relationships in the process. This is an episode you don't want to miss. We kind of go into it with IPP, what they're doing, how reps are a part of it, and why you want to make sure you're listening to things like this as you advance through your career. As always, we do our best to bring new guests who do things differently in the medical sales space. So I really do hope you enjoy this interview. So, Doctor, it's been a minute since I saw you last. How have you been? What's going on? Talk to us.
Yeah, it has been a while. Thanks for having me on again. Things are going great. Last time I was talking to you a little bit about my little side gig, the IPP, or the Independent Practice Partners, and that's actually been growing really well. And we're excited to announce that we're opening up our first, assisting a doctor open up his first pain practice in the next few weeks. And last time I think I spoke to you, we were just like in the opening phases of that, and then the group as a whole has been doing amazing. So it started out with ophthalmologists, and they're actually opening up their, I think, over 30 practices now in the ophthalmology space in a matter of 4 or 5 years, which is tremendous growth.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's dial it back a little bit, because there's a lot of people listening right now that they don't know about this opportunity. They don't know about what you guys are doing, and they don't know what it is, what it means for doctors and for reps and for medical sales professionals. Why don't you break it down? What is this exactly, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so the founding guys are a group of ophthalmologist doctors who, through trial and error, ended up starting their own kind of private practices and realized that there's a lot of difficult steps and a lot of things they don't really teach you, and you don't really know until you start doing it. So they kind of came together and started this company that actually assists doctors who want to start their own private practice. Now, doctors can probably figure this out on their own, but their real main point is they get you from the idea you want to start to the time you're actually seeing patients and actually collecting some revenue much faster. So any kind of mistake or kind of, choose your own adventure choice you have to make, they'll know they've already done it. They've already made those mistakes. So they know, okay, hey, this is the way to do it. This is the fastest way to get this done. These are the things you want to get done. And then that really saves you time. And then when you're starting your own practice, the time until you're actually generating revenue is a very scary time for people. That's usually what holds people back, is like, listen, I only have X amount of money saved up. I will need to get this up and going as soon as possible. So, yeah.
Sure. So let's just dive into that a little bit, because I think it's valuable for medical sales professionals, especially ones that call on ophthalmologists, to understand what that journey really is like, so they know what to anticipate when they're trying to work with a new physician. What is the timeline on the average, and then how does your service with IPP speed that timeline up?
Yeah, so I mean, it could be, if you're doing it on your own, it definitely could be, a year plus to try to really get all these things up and going, getting credentialed on insurances and things like that. I believe these guys typically do it around 6 months or so. The fastest I think I've heard them do, with some side caveats, was about 3-4 months. So they're able to get things up and going relatively quick. Yeah.
Got nothing to revenue in 4 months.
Well, revenue meaning patients through the door.
Okay.
with the insurance game, insurance is also, there's a 90-day thing until they start paying sometimes claims and stuff like that. But from idea to like actually seeing patients, it can be as fast as that. Typically, 6, 8 months, 10 months, which is reasonable. Um, the 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 whole idea, especially since your platform, again, thanks for having me on. It's nice to have the reps really kind of hear about this opportunity because doctors, especially when we work pretty closely with different reps, tend to rely on them, and we use them for advice and also, hey, I'm thinking about maybe switching, practice locations, or hey, what do you think of that practice? Or what do you think of this location? Or do you know if some people are hiring if you're, kind of not happy with your current situation? And a lot of times we'll go to the reps, especially if we have a great relationship with them. So it's really just trying to plant that seed in as many people's heads that, hey, there's actually a group, because there's nothing really out there. There's some like lawyer groups that help assist with the kind of contracting and that kind of
Legal,
thing.
yeah, the
But
legal.
there's the legal aspects of it. But there's no one from a physician standpoint who will basically hold your hand through the whole process
Wow.
and get you up and running as fast as possible. So it's a really nice avenue of venture, because there's not a lot of options out there.
Now that's so interesting. So, and right now, you guys start. Well, they were ophthalmologists. They started ophthalmology, but right now, you guys have your hands in all kinds of specialties.
Yeah, so last year, right around the time we were speaking, I came on board to the advisory board in the pain management kind of division. So we're starting in pain management and also in dermatology. Yeah, so we're slowly trying to expand. So they've really got the ophthalmology game down pat, and expanding and through word of mouth, and getting more and more doctors who are looking to join and start their own private practice, which is great. So we're slowly building that now in pain management. Got the first one, um, getting ready to open soon, and then hopefully we can get some more.
That's amazing. And would you say that? I mean, it's kind of early to tell, but the different specialties still have the same kind of pathway, or would you say that dermatology is a lot longer than pain management? Pain management's a lot shorter than ophthalmology, and vice versa.
I think there's the baseline background things that are very comparable across all medical specialties that are outpatient based. Obviously, this is not going to work for someone who needs to be in the hospital doing big procedures, but outpatient based, a lot of the things are pretty universal, and that's what we have, kind of a set blueprint. And then anything that needs to be customized, that's really where the individual doctors in each field, the ophthalmology guys will help them. I'm here on the pain management side to kind of troubleshoot or assist with anything that could be more specific to that. And then the same with the derm. So yeah, the pain management has actually seems to be relatively quick. There's less equipment and things that are needed compared to some of the ophthalmology physicians. So I think they're similar, but we have the ability to adjust if needed.
That's amazing. Now, this is growing. It's grown since I've just seen you. What,
Yeah,
maybe 6 months to a year ago.
yeah.
What's your time looking like with this project? Is this something that, as it grows, you're spending more time, or as it grows, you're kind of just getting to do whatever you want to do on the outside? And what do you want it to be? That's probably even a better question.
I want it to keep growing. I think if we can get the word out, I think every time someone comes on board or hears about it, they think it's a great idea. I think it can keep growing. There's a lot of healthcare consolidation going on right now, so we're at like one end of the spectrum where hospitals are becoming these giant monopolies, insurances are now buying up practices and everything. So everyone's kind of getting um, integrated into like almost one or two
Yeah,
big.
private practice is a dying breed,
It's a
right? Or
dying breed, right? So this
yeah,
is going against all those trends. And
yeah, yeah.
if you look at most things, it's almost better to be on the other end because the pendulum's going to swing back around. It always does. So at some point, they're going to be like, okay, we can't have these giant health systems. They need to be broken up. We need to do X, Y, and Z. We need to help, private practices with reimbursement rates, make it the same as the hospital rates, things like that. And then the pendulum will swing quickly back the other way. These physicians who are kind of, ahead of their time by starting their own private practice will be right there to benefit from it. So you're already getting doctors who are tired of working for the giant conglomerates or hospital groups who are
Oh,
looking for
really? So you're
revenue.
hearing that now?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, doctors are not,
Wow.
they're not, it's becoming a physician, you're typically a very independent person and don't like to be micromanaged by people who
Okay.
are not
So
your peers.
so hold on. I mean, because you said that, and you're a doctor, so you know better than anyone. But I do remember when I was back in the day when I used to be a rep early in my career. Um, and it was like a rash where these hospitals were just buying up practices left and right. And to my surprise, the doctors were happy to do it. They were like, "Wait a minute, you're telling me you're going to pay me more to see maybe 10 patients a day? You're going to take over all these troubles that I normally have to manage that are just a pain in my and I just get to skate until I retire? Sign me up." And then I saw this trend of down to fellows talking about, yeah, when I was in school, we were just excited to join a medical group or join some big group and be that physician that almost treats the job more like an 8 to 5 than anything else and live that life. So I assume that that's just going to be the standard and that's eventually going to be the only thing that really exists. So where did it, I guess, to your point that the pendulum always swings, when did it start to change?
So that's a great question. So it definitely back in the day, um, there was a lot of physicians who were, like you said, happy to be like, oh, really? I can just practice the way I'm practicing now, slow down in a few years, and then retire, and you're going to give me a big payday. That's the key, though. So those are the physicians who are ready to slow down and retire in a few years. So the sellout to the hospital or the private equity or whoever
Makes sense.
always benefits them, right? They're getting a giant payday. They work for a couple more years and then they're done. It's the younger docs who really suffer, right? That's when they don't have the ability to run the practice efficiently. They don't have the ability to even have much say sometimes in their hours and this and that, the amount of time they can spend with patients, things like this. It's not their choice, right? Sometimes it gets just told to them what they need to do.
Right.
The the hospital, the company that paid all that money up front to those other people need to recruit that. And how can you
Yeah.
recruit it? It's like, okay, well, we need you to see more people. We need you to do X, Y, and Z. We need to take
Yeah.
less vacations. So the younger docs kind of get a bad break with that. So that's where I think this comes in for them. Um, Also, the fellows coming out and work, I think a lot of that was more maybe joining a big private practice or things like that, where they could learn the craft in an outpatient setting. Definitely, there's some benefit to joining if you're in a specialty that requires you to be in the hospital all the time to
Sure.
join like a hospital group. But private practice, the benefit of having your own private practice is you're the boss.
Yeah.
You want to work 1 day a week, you do it. You want to work 2 days a week, you do it. You want to take every day 3 hour lunch because you're able to maybe go see your kid or this or that
Yeah.
or whatever
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
to do, you
Yeah.
do it. And you can actually make as much money, if not way more, without seeing as many patients or feeling the stress because you control the overhead. And that cannot be stated enough to a lot of newer, younger doctors who don't realize that you can run your practice at a very efficient manner. So you can bring in half and make twice as much sometimes as if you were an employee doctor just because you're structuring the practice very efficiently. And that's also what IPP does very well. We structure the practices. Most of my partners in this, they work only like 2.5 days. They're
Wow.
seeing a lot of patients, but they structure their practice so they're highly efficient. When they're working, they're cranking, and they have their staff and then they have their overhead down to such a good amount that boom, they're doing extremely phenomenally
See,
well.
see, see now, doctor, you're just gonna make some people mad that are listening right now. That's what's happening right now. You're gonna make them upset,
No, yeah,
and
make them
you're
say,
gonna
come, join, start
get
your
them.
own
This is on
practice.
purpose, people. This is on purpose.
Yeah,
Okay,
start
no,
your own
no, yeah,
practice. You control your timeline. You don't have an admin telling you when you can
yeah,
take vacation and what you can do with your life. You do
yeah.
what you want to do.
That's fascinating. So you mentioned private practice, private practice. This also works though for medical groups. That's somewhat considered private practice, right? If you're a band of doctors, maybe five or
Oh
six of
yeah,
you in a group a
sure.
year.
We haven't we've done with solo typically as
Okay.
of now. We haven't had a group who've done that. I don't. Yeah, it's typically a physician who's either in a bigger group or whatever, just wants to branch out and start their own thing. But I will say that the many of the practices have grown so fast
that
that
they
they're
need
hiring docs and people underneath it. Yeah,
wow. And you guys
yeah.
help them
So
with that.
yeah, whatever they need. Yeah,
Wow.
100%. Yeah, that's the thing. It's really the beginning that we help the most.
Okay.
But even after we've kind of exited, we're always there if they want to contact us. It's almost kind of like a mentorship. If they have questions or this,
Gotcha.
we're there to help guide them. Like 3 years down the road, they're like, hey, I want to maybe open a second location. Can you guys maybe do the geographical analysis and this and that? And we can jump right back in,
Okay.
with the assistance if they need it. Yeah.
How long do you normally work with a physician?
So we work initially in the beginning to get them up and running and started. We can continue with them for a few years if needed on some of the back office things, the revenue cycle management, things like that. And then some physicians actually stay on for we have like a little side piece that helps with revenue cycle management billing. And they do a phenomenal job at really capturing all the claims. So we have many of the practices. It's up to them if they want to stay on with that piece as just like a little small piece on the side to help them with their billing. But yeah, we typically do in the beginning, and then our continuation is a as need basis.
Okay. So, okay. Let's have some fun with the numbers here, just so everyone listening can have a clearer picture about what's actually going on. If you were just to indulge me, okay, indulge me. If you were to qualify the entire physician market into either private practice or non-private practice, what percentages are you assigning? What percentage is private practice? What percentage is non-private practice?
Yeah, it's I don't know offhand the exact, but it's definitely um, way more of a majority are not private practice
Like,
than
would we
are
say
that.
70-30?
I would guess somewhere around there. Yeah, maybe
70-30. Okay, so let's
65. Yeah. And it's changing every year because as we've talked about, the private practice model is going away, not so much on the solo, but these groups, large groups, um, are getting bought up between the hospitals, private equity, insurance companies,
right.
and so it's shifting that way every year. It's shifting that way more and more. Plus a lot of the different regulations and things that some states put in place. It's almost like the game's rigged to just be an employee. So
Wow. Wow.
yeah,
Or it's going that direction anyway. Okay, so 70-30, but you did say that the pendulum is swinging, and you do see that at some point it's going to swing far the other way. So maybe that 70-30 is going to flip. When do you
I
see
bet it
that?
will. I bet it will over the next maybe decade. I think
Decade.
that
Okay.
both on the regulation government side, I think there's, in theory, there's legislations that's looking to do pay equity. So if you do a procedure in a doctor's surgical center versus the hospital surgical center, why are you getting paid 3 times as much to do it at the hospital surgical center versus the doctor's surgical center? So things like that can pay equity in those types of regards can change it. Um, the access to, a lot of people don't like these giant integrated systems where the insurance company is the same people who own the doctor, who own the pharmacy. And I think that on the regulation side will change with legislations over the years because there's a lot of kind of pushback that you're starting to hear in the media and also Congress with some of that. And then on the local, like on the physician level, you're getting pushback because doctors are for the most part starting to get tired of being kind of pushed around, or if they get in a tough kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
environment
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they don't have say over their own
Yeah.
schedule or say over or how many patients they're seeing or things like that. It's very frustrating.
I'll never forget it. This was years ago, and I worked with a surgeon that he was my customer, and he worked in a hospital, entity group, and he had a PhD, an MBA, and he
Yeah.
was an amazing surgeon.
Yeah.
And the person that he answered to did not have a bachelor's degree. And
Yeah,
oh my
exactly.
God, every day he'd be like, I cannot believe
Yeah.
this is my life. I
Right.
cannot believe this is my life.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So like that's the person like you go, hey, listen, you are an extremely smart individual. Yeah. Do you have experience in all X, Y, and Z? No. We'll help guide you
I'll
to that
get you
point.
there.
We'll
Yeah.
set you there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you excelled at every aspect of your life. There's no doubt you'll excel at this too. We'll just
All
help you
right.
get there faster than you would if you did it by yourself.
I love it. Now, how does Medicare and Medicaid factor into all of this, or and boutique practices, for example? So you have these private practices that are boutique only. Gosh, I remember for a little while that was the hottest thing, and they were making a ton of money in relatively affluent areas. And then you had, the Medicare and Medicaid, which has always been kind of a
Right. So,
yeah. So yeah,
I mean, so the IPP typically works with the insurance model. So a lot of the kind of headaches and some of the difficulties with setting up your own practice in the insurance model with credentialing and getting decent rates and billing and all the things that are required with seeing that is really where IPP can be the most of assistance. Doing like a boutique cash practice, it's much easier to kind of set up on your own. You don't need revenue cycle management. You don't need a billing department. You don't need X, Y, and Z. You don't have to apply for the rate or anything. So you just kind of it
right.
was like how it was back in the day. You
Yeah,
put your name out there
yeah,
and be like, hey, this is
right.
what I offer. Um, so yeah, and I think in some fields that's also where it's going to. I don't think so much in like ophthalmology, maybe dermatology with some aspects of it. Pain management could maybe go that route as well, because a lot of the procedures we do are not that crazy expensive. So you could maybe do that model if the insurances keep cutting the rates and or are not covering procedures.
Sure.
But yeah, typically we work with the insurance kind of model.
Okay, and then the Medicare Medicaid stuff. So you're saying you're mostly like PPO type. Uh,
Well, no, yeah, we take Medicare too, and certain Medicaid depending on the contract and that they would do. So typically, I'm just saying in general, when we look to set up a practice, we would see if it's in Wisconsin or California or New York or whatever it is. We'll see what the big insurance players are there. Obviously Medicare,
so you're advising them
certain
on
Medicaid.
where to put
What?
their energy.
Correct. Yeah, yeah. We look at the rates. We help determine. We like, hey, you know what? This one's going to be a money loser. That it makes no sense for you to see those patients. Even if you're going to get an extra 10 patients, you're going to have to see 12 to make anything or whatever. So
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
that's all part of the cost benefit analysis. But no, yeah, most practices are seeing Medicare, some of the Medicaids, depending on the state and what they offer.
So right now, you've labeled the specialties where you guys are thriving, but are you in a position where pretty much any specialty can call you and ask for help? I hope you're enjoying today's episode. And I want to let you know our programs cover the entire career of a medical sales professional. From getting into the medical sales industry, to training on how to be a top performer in the medical sales industry, to masterfully navigating your career to executive level leadership. These programs are personalized and customized for your specific career and background, and trained by over 50 experts, including surgeons. Our results speak for ourselves, and we're landing positions for our candidates in less than 120 days in top medical technology companies like Stryker, Medtronic, Merck, Abbott, you name it. Would you run an Ironman race without training and a strategy? You wouldn't. So why are you trying to do the same with a medical sales position? You need training, you need a strategy, and you need to visit evolveyoursuccess.com, fill out the application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and let's get you into the position that you've always dreamed of.
We haven't really expanded to that. That might be the next step. The founding partners I know are more kind of in that kind of vein. I think eventually, but I think we're like I said, the ophthalmology is expanding, exponentially at this point. So I think right now we're really invested in getting the pain
Sure.
management and
Makes sense.
dermatology arms running. But
Yep.
I don't see why not. Like we were talking about, a lot of the background things are the same. Obviously, there'll be a little differences here and there for the subspecialties, but um, I don't see why that couldn't be the future.
Okay. Okay. So they should call you.
They can call, always can call, always can call, can
All
always
right.
go check us out on the internet at
Sure. Sure.
ipracticepartners.com and we're here. We're here to talk. And see.
What are the biggest challenges with this service? When do you find yourself saying, this one's a tough nut to crack What are how are those types of physicians typically showing up that makes them such a challenge?
It's not so much that it's a challenge once we start.
Okay.
It's getting the physician to say, yes, I want to leave my current situation because it's not good for X, Y, and Z. Most people say it's not good for X, Y, and Z, but then taking that step to being like, you know what, it's not good, I'm going to do something about it is like the hardest part. Once you get them to do that, then, and they want to start their own private practice, then it's kind of like, okay, we're here. We're here to help. We're here to get you up and running. It's getting them to say, I want it. People always think about it. They toy with it.
Or it's timid
They'll
interest.
say it. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's a hard thing to do. It's like trying to ask out the girl at the bar.
yeah,
You gotta just do it sometimes.
yeah. Love that analogy. Okay, gotcha. That's the challenge. Is I describe it as timid interest, right? They want to flirt with it, but I just don't know. Now
Correct.
let's talk about that physician that he or she has been working for 20, 30 years, and they're like, I need to remove myself from how much time I spend trying to see all my patients. I want to hire someone, but they just can't figure it out. I mean, in my tenure, I've seen so many physicians in that position. I can't. I could, if I made a nickel every time I came across a physician that had that situation, I'd be a billionaire. So how that physician calls you? What's the expectation? You could help them get to a solution.
So see, I don't know. I mean, we could help guide with that. Yeah, we're more like with getting you started with your initial practice. So if
I
they
see.
were with us already,
I see.
then we can like help incorporate the newer physicians or help them like recruit and things like that. But yeah, if it's like more of a physician who's like looking to wind down, they already have their private practice. Typically, what they end up doing is selling to the hospital or someone. If they were well, what my father actually did was he actually bought his. He was a psychiatrist. He's a psychiatrist, but has recently retired. Many years ago, he actually bought a physician's private practice
Okay.
who was retiring, and then just took it over. So that could be the option too. I mean, I think it's going to be less. More likely, what everyone kind of does nowadays is sells it to the hospital or private equity or whoever, and work for 2 or 3 more years, and then retire, and then the group hires someone else.
Gotcha. Okay. Remind us, what type of physician are you, doctor?
Yeah, so I'm a interventional pain and sports medicine physician. I work in a large orthopedic practice up in the Hudson Valley, New York. Um, do a bunch of outpatient procedures, spinal procedures. We have a surgical center, and yeah, that's my 9 to 5 is that. It's pretty rewarding. I work with a lot of spine surgeons and try to keep people away from my spine surgeon colleagues so they don't need a big fusion or anything like that.
Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. Now, did you use the service, or were you kind of already, you had the blessing of knowing what to do and you had more success
Right.
than
So
others?
I have not used the Surface. All the other founding partners have well they kind of came up with the idea together and they were using bits and pieces and kind of did it that way. I have not. So I got lucky. I joined a large private practice group. So I was kind of grandfathered in luckily into the private practice model. So I got lucky with that. But having said that, if for some reason down the road I want to branch out and do my own thing, this is kind of the no-brainer way to go. It's the turnkey model. That's what I don't know, I think it's the term people use. A turnkey model, right? The franchise is
Yeah.
there, boom,
Yeah.
set it up and go.
That's awesome. A lot of reps listening to this podcast that are active in the field doing their thing, what would you share with them about this opportunity, about this that service, this business that they could, make more valuable for the physician that they call on?
Yeah, so I mean, like I was saying, like the reps are have in they have so much knowledge, local knowledge, territorial knowledge. They're usually calling on a bunch of docs in the area, referral sources, things like that. So we usually turn to reps, like, hey, how's that group, or what's that, how's that area, or if you're thinking of expanding or looking for a new job. So just having your audience know that there's a physician-led group that offers these services. You never know when you're working with a physician, like, man, I just can't take working at this hospital anymore. I wish I could just start my own thing. I just don't know how to do it. They might say it offhand or whatever in passing to the rep who's in a long case with them or whatever, And the rep go, "Oh, you know what? There's this group. You should look at them." That's really what I wanted. I just want to get the message out there,
Yeah.
plant that seed in as many people's heads because you'll never really know. And most of my reps who I deal with are very personable, very great, and very helpful with troubleshooting. So they love to pass on these little pearls on
Yeah.
whether it's
Yeah.
the procedure you're doing or
Sure.
whether it's golfing or whatever. They'll love to be like, "Oh yeah, let me help you with this. Let me help you with that." So they're very very helpful. So hopefully they'll have that in their head and someone talks to someone and then, "Oh yeah, yeah, doc, you should look at this. You may be interested in what they have to offer."
Got it. Now, right now, you guys don't have like a sales team or anything like that. How are you? How are you letting people know that this exists?
Through you.
Through me.
This is,
It's all on me,
yes,
guys. You hear that?
it's
You hear
all on
that,
you.
folks?
No. Yeah, I mean, so we typically go to the conferences a lot and network. Some of the guys are really great on like LinkedIn and really up there with their social media presence and things like that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's really old school. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
we tried advertising on things or here and
Yeah.
there, and it's just it doesn't get as much traction as
As
word
you
of
as you want
mouth.
it to. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Just getting it out. People hear about it, and then it just kind of spreads and it's even not even for that. I think that's why it also takes a couple years before you really see the floodgates open. Like now they're opening for the ophthalmology space because they've been going to the conferences, hosting little
Sure.
dinners and things
Sure.
here and there.
Sure.
So the whole community really knows well. So the second that they're thinking about starting, they like call the group versus the pain and dermatology we just started. So last fall, we had a conference, we had a nice dinner, we got out with some of the fellows, and
Nice. Nice.
that'll just plant the seed. The
Yeah.
fellow might
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
job, his
Yeah.
first contract will be good, and then after the second contract, he realizes, oh, I'm getting kind of screwed over here a little bit. I think I want to go on my own, and then that's where that seed was planted a while ago.
That's awesome. I have to ask this question. So, since you've been in this business, what's the biggest success you would say you've seen?
I would just say the growth of those practices. The some of them are growing so fast that they're looking to hire like two, three, new physicians, new locations. It's just so impressive. Like you think, okay, how am I going to start something on my own? And you're scared, and then boom, before you know, within a couple of years, it's growing faster than you know. And then if you're the founding physician, you got a couple of docs underneath you, you may not even have to work that much at all. If you
Right.
cut down from that 2 days to like 1 day if you
Right.
want to, but that's your choice, and I think that's probably what's the most exciting thing. So like even with all the headwinds of the regulations and kind of the not having the safety of being in a big group and this and that, once it's up and running, you just see that these practices thrive. So it's kind of amazing. You think, well, once they're up, would it be struggling? Will they be? No, they're doing phenomenally well, which is really exciting.
You guys clearly know what you're doing. So then, uh, we have to now know about the man behind the force. So
Okay, okay.
how do you make life work? You're a busy physician in pain management. You're a big player in pain management. You got this whole other business you're helping run. Where do you find the time? Tell us about the family life, the daily plan. How do you make it all work?
So a lot of the work ends up falling on my wife, who's also a physician, but she's extremely lovely and very understanding of me
What
doing all
specialty?
kinds of silly things. Yeah, my work structure is actually fairly good. I have it very efficient at work, so I'm able to do a lot in a short period of time, which allows me to have more time like this to spend this afternoon
Sure.
speaking to you.
Yep.
So that works out well. Yeah, I got two young kids. They're in school. One's 8, one's 4.
You're in the trenches, sir. You are in the
Yes,
trenches.
yes, yes. And yeah, no, it's good. Weekends we spend a lot of time with them, and then I waste a lot of time. My wife will definitely, if you ever meet her, will be saying that I waste a lot of time golfing. So that's kind of my biggest vice is what I do is
That's
I
awesome. Just
golf.
to be able to say it. That's awesome. What specialty is your wife in?
She does women's health and family practice. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Has she used any of this? any of
She
the?
hasn't, but she has started her own practice. So
Wow.
she also is, in this, and we've had experience and kind of exposure and some of the pitfalls that can happen if
Right.
you don't have a kind of vetted path. So, I personally haven't, but I've seen it firsthand with my wife, where if you make a certain mistake, it's not like you're shutting down the business. It's just delaying you from profitability or delaying you
Sure.
from revenue
Sure.
by making X, Y, and Z mistake in that decision tree. So that's really where IPP's got it down to a science on how to get all those things in the background that you may not even be thinking about all aligned. So that way, boom, you can be seeing patients as soon as possible.
I love it. I love this. This is fantastic. Any I don't know, how would I say this? Any I don't know, rituals, practices you do that kind of keep you going? Any kind of thing you follow that's like, yeah, this is my mantra, or this is my plan every morning that kind of gets me in gear and allows me to do and create the life that I'm currently living.
Any kind of mantra. That's a great, I don't know. I don't know who said this, but it always pops in my head sometimes randomly. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, no, I like it. I like it. It's good. I love it.
Yeah, so sometimes, just to get motivated,
Yeah.
you should try
Yes.
more things.
Facts. Facts. Okay. To bring this to a close. So the last thing I want to ask about regarding the IPP is, what is it? What is the number one? And if you can't put in number one, you maybe give me three, but what's the number one to three mistakes that new private practice physicians typically always make that put them in positions to need help from an entity like IPP?
Well, I think in the beginning, the first step would be geographic location, like doing the proper analysis to see where's your competitors, where's the what's the insurer payer mix, what's the what are some of the referring physicians, who's maybe closer to retirement. So there's things that you can kind of research and help analyze to kind of pick a location that will make you more successful. I think that's a big pitfall in the beginning. Just be like, okay, well, I live here, so I'll just open a thing right down the street. Versus if you went maybe a town or two over, it could be a lot better. So I think that's one of the biggest pitfalls. I think the other big pitfall where I think IPP is very helpful is the revenue cycle management, the billing, collections, that piece. It's very difficult. The insurances make the whole process very, very, very cumbersome, and managing that, understanding, training the staff to know, okay, well, this patient, yeah, this insurance, you have to take this copay, and this you have to do that way. I think that's a big piece that most physicians really don't have, especially if you're coming from like a hospital training type of thing. You don't really a hospital practice. You don't really get a lot of exposure to that. So they're even paid on this RVU model, which is, it doesn't, it's completely arbitrary and made up, but it's just so different that I think those are probably the two biggest areas where I think, we can really help. We help kind of pick and locate the proper location for you to thrive. And then once you're up, we can really help to make sure that all the work you're doing, you're actually receiving payment for, in a timely manner.
Sure. Is there any efforts to kind of get this type of information and the opportunity to work with a company like yours to students that are still in school, to doctors that are about to be doctors?
Yeah, so like I said, when we go to these conferences, we do get exposure to fellows, and we try to plant the seeds. But typically, it hasn't really. You would think like, okay, the
They're
new
just
doc
too
would
green.
want to start, but
Yeah.
with the training being so
Yeah.
long and
Yeah.
the kind of delayed gratification that we all go through, it's hard to say no to someone being, oh, here's X, Y, and Z guaranteed salary for 3 years with a sign-on bonus and a relocation and this and that. So it maybe in the future will go more towards that, but as of right now, it's really the physician after their first contract before year 10, somewhere in that
Yeah,
kind
they got
of
to get beat up a
timeline.
little bit. They got to have a little bit of
Right.
pain
They
going on,
get
little
the
bruises and
some
stuff. Yeah.
they get the big initial pay, and then they go like, and then they realize, oh, this is not what I thought I was getting myself into. There's more to it. And then once they kind of see the business side of it, and they're like, I'm giving taking home pennies on the dollar for what I'm actually, creating for this entity. I can do this on my own much better. That's where around, between year 3 and 10, the doc is like, okay, well, I'm ready. Let's do this. But hopefully in the future, the fellows will be more adventurous and ready to jump in.
Sure. Sure. We'll have more episodes, sir, and we'll
Yeah,
get them too.
definitely.
Okay.
Yes,
It's on us.
definitely. All right. I like it.
This is awesome, Doctor. Always love spending time with you. We have one
Yeah,
more
thank
thing
you.
to do. It's called the lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So, what is the best book you've read in the last 6 months?
I wish you asked me this last time.
I did. And a whole 6 months has passed. So you better give me a new
But
book.
I'm reading. I'm I'm reading Harry Potter still with my
Hey,
daughter.
there's nothing wrong with
Those
that.
books
Which
are very
one?
long.
Which one?
We're halfway through the second one now.
Okay. Hey, that is good. That is very good. I love
And
it.
she's the one who's reading it, so the
That's
books are
awesome.
very long. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay. Hey, you
yeah.
got to do it. What is the best TV show or movie you've seen in the last 6 months?
So I'm watching a TV show right now called Narcos Mexico,
Oh,
and
that
it's
was good.
phenomenal.
Yes.
It's all like real life. So I was
Yes.
watching an episode, and literally the guy that the episode was about just got
I know. It's
transported from
wild,
Mexico
right?
to New
I
York.
know. Yes.
And I was like, oh my God, that's the guy. What the heck? So
This
that
is
show
real.
is,
This really happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, it's really, yeah, El Chapo. I'm
Yeah.
watching El Chapo.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
put
Yeah.
El Chapo in jail for the first time. I don't know. So the show is great. My wife hates it because she's like upstairs trying to do work, and she hears all this like Mexican curse word, Spanish curse words, and guns and things going off.
That is fantastic. I love it. Okay. What's the best meal you've had in the last 6 months?
The best meal was this. There's a restaurant a little further south in Westchester that makes authentic Chinese food.
What's the name?
So goose feather.
Goose feather. Okay.
Yeah, and it's in some sort of like observatory, like mansion type of place. It was
Wow. Okay.
fantastic. We have some family friends who are like big foodies, and they like to pick restaurants to go to. So this was one of their picks, and it was fantastic. It was The food was delicious. The ambiance was like amazing.
Is
We
it
were
a
like
chain
just
or
like
is it just
no,
one?
it's not. I don't think it's a chain. I think it was just that local restaurant. It was like we were in this like estate, and then we were in like what looked like their living room or something, and eating this
Wow.
amazing meal. Yeah, it was great.
So I'm doing a national tour of all
Oh,
the
okay.
podcast recommendations. So I am going to Goose Feather.
Oh yeah, let me know. Let me
Yeah, I
know.
will.
Yeah,
I will. When I'm in
you'll
town, I'm gonna
enjoy
let
it.
you know. Yeah, we might be able to do it together. That'd be awesome. And it's all
I'd
going to
love
be
to
on our
join you.
YouTube channel. Okay.
I'll definitely join you.
Okay. Last but not least, what's the best experience you've had in the last 6 months?
Best experience I've had in the last 6 months. Well, I guess I'll say Eagles winning the Super Bowl.
Hey, that was a big deal. Okay.
It was a
That is
very
a big
big
deal.
deal.
I was rooting for that quarterback.
Jalen Hurts.
Oh man, I
Yeah,
mean, gosh, I
he's
was so
great.
happy. That dude deserved it so much.
Well, so this he's a perfect example of like perseverance and
Yeah,
kind of
really is.
following your dreams and
Yeah.
your goals. Like he was the quarterback in the national championship game for Alabama and got benched.
Wow.
He got benched in the national championship game,
Did not know
went
that.
to Oklahoma, became like almost the Heisman Trophy winner, then got drafted by the Eagles, and now he's, one of the top quarterbacks.
True success
He
story.
didn't give up on his dream. He got
Yeah.
benched in the national championship
Wow.
game and
Wow.
kept fighting, and he did it. So we can all do it.
Hey, man, you better say it, Doctor. You better say it.
Yeah.
As always, it was a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you for coming. We can't wait to see the amazing thing you're doing with IPP and as you continue your career.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me on. Pleasure.
That was Dr. Vishal Rekhala. Wow, good stuff. I always love talking to him about these things. His business is amazing. What they're doing is amazing. And it's really interesting that, when I was out there doing my thing, it was all about these big entities taking over everything. And really, from new physicians to older physicians, everybody wanted to be a part of it. Now that the pendulum is starting to swing again and private practice is becoming the thing to step into and do powerfully, it's just fantastic to hear. And groundbreaking companies like this that are helping physicians get there and allowing reps to partake and providing even more value to their customers. I mean, it's a win-win across the board. This is awesome, and I can't wait to see the things they go on and do. If you love episodes like this, if you love the information we're sharing with you, if this is providing you more value, then I want you to do one thing before you continue your day after listening to this podcast. I want you to go to Spotify, I want you to go to Apple, and I want you to write a review on what you're hearing, what you're learning. Give us a 5-star rating if you believe it's so. Give us what's true for you. But if we're providing value, then please help us spread the word so that more people can get that same kind of value. As always, we do our best to bring you guests who are doing things differently in the medical sales space. So please tune in next week for another episode of the Medical Sales Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And remember, I have a customized and personalized program that gets you into the medical technology industry as a sales professional or any type of role for that matter. Become a top performer in your position and masterfully navigate your career to executive level leadership. Check out these programs and learn more at evolvesuccess.com by visiting our site, filling out an application, schedule some time with one of our account executives, and allowing us to get you where you need to be. Stay tuned for more awesome content with amazing interviews on the Medical Sales Podcast.